Welcome, Freedom Fighter1776. I'm your host, Mark Charles Bashaw. Awesome show today. We're going to be talking about the Lance Castle situation. I'll start off with a video on that. We've got two amazing guests with us. We both reprimandos, both former military. So I'll talk about them, give a brief introduction. But first, before I do that, I want to jump into this video, folks. I want to show you this video. Check this out. This is the Lance Castle situation, hot cell extraction. Back when they court-martialed him the first time, and we're going to talk about Lance Castle court-martial number 1, Lance Castle court-martial 2. We're going to be talking about the jab mandates, the reinstatement, what seems to be a smokescreen at this point in time, unless people come forth and actually are provenly being reinstated. But what I see is a lot of bureaucrats being pretty difficult with those individuals, including myself. We're going to talk about the Forgotten Soldiers podcast and things like that. But first, let's jump into this. Check this out. This is Lance Castle, hot cell extraction for doing absolutely nothing wrong, getting court-martialed the first time, 7 charges, and being found innocent on all 7 charges. This is Lance Castle.
Take your blanket off. Go for the left.
So who's going for the legs?
Are you choosing to be non-compliant?
You get one leg.
Are you choosing to be non-compliant?
Get on the floor! Get on the floor! Get on the floor! Let's go! Let's go! Get on the floor! Get on the floor! Get on the fucking floor! Stop resisting!
Where's the handcuff? I need a handcuff right now.
Get his arm. I got it. Here, get the handcuffs to the legs.
I need a handcuff. I'm going for his left arm. All right.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting! You will get tagged! You will get tagged!
All right, right there.
Just wait.
I got left cuff on.
Stop resisting or you will get tagged! Ankles on!
Do you hear me? Do not move. Do not move.
You will get tased!
No.
I got
Put it behind his back.
All
Alright. I got his other arm.
my shoulder hurt.
His right arm. It's probably buried under.
Give us your other arm!
I can't.
Stay down. Under his chest.
Stay down.
Fuck, dude.
Stay
Going
down.
for it.
Stay down.
Where's black glove? Is this thing with your hand?
Do my left toe break. My pinky left toe.
All right.
Get the
My
shots on.
pinky break.
Double lock. Are those double lock? Yeah, they do. Get them locked.
Stay down.
All right, check it. Just try to squeeze it and see if it. Well, they're double lock. All right. We're doing this now later.
Alright. We're gonna lift him up.
We're gonna lift you up to your knees.
Or do you want him to carry? You want us to carry him?
Carry him.
Carry him.
Just like that.
Okay. Over the shoulder.
Over the shoulder. 1, 2, 3.
Bring him over in front of the castle. Get out of the way of your medic. Medic.
Yeah.
The extraction team can break away so that we can look out and ask questions.
He's bleeding from his face.
Yeah.
Roll over.
Bleeding from his face. Man, dude, if you know Lance Castle, you know the story about Lance Castle. John Delarm, Forgotten Soldiers, and Tech Sergeant Lauderbaugh. We have them backstage in the studio. This is their channel, the Forgotten Soldiers. You see it down here, folks. And they do an amazing job covering this whole saga of Lance Castle. And they're in the studio now to discuss about this. Let me go ahead and bring them up. Welcome to the show, Tech Sergeant Scott Lauderbaugh, John Delarm, both reprimandos, both forced out of the military unlawfully for refusing the jab mandates, for standing up and communicating properly to their chain of command with protected communication, only to get unlawfully discharged. In John Delarm's case, 17 years. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit more about yourself, John. I must have froze or John froze. I'm going to go over to Tech Sergeant Scott. Tech Sergeant Scott, tell us about yourself.
Hey, how you doing? So 6 years active duty Navy, 2 years Army Reserves, 12 years Air Force, Air National Guard, and then 4 years Air Force Reserves. I was a chef in all 4 branches, and fought the COVID vaccine mandates, beat the DOD straight up, and continue to fight alongside my military brothers and sisters. And that's it.
Amen, brother. John Delarm, welcome. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everything you've been doing with the Forgotten Soldiers. And we want to dive into that. But first, give us a little bit more about yourself, sir. Sir.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Mark. Yeah, thank you, sir. I just dropped off for a second, so I don't know what you said. But yeah, I served 17 years, 10 months, United States Army. I'm an artillery guy. Basically said no to the COVID-19 vaccine. As we all know, it was under emergency use authorization, and there was no approved vaccine within the United States. I found out that early on, and I refused to take it, and I reported that information up through my chain of command, Article 138 and other protective communication. And what I got for that was I got kicked out. I lost my retirement, and you know, just been trying harder the entire time. Started a podcast, the first Delarm John, and all my videos are there. You can watch everything, but I basically interview soldiers with Scott. I interview soldiers with Scott Lauderbaugh, basically soldiers that got kicked out of the military over the COVID vaccine mandates. We interview soldiers that are vaccine injured, and you know, like we're here today as well. We also cover the Lance Castle story in depth as much as we possibly can, and everything that I cover in episode 73. Everything's out of Lance Castle's mouth himself. So you know, we interviewed him for, it was like 10 hours, Scott, and I combined all that up into just under 2 hours, and it's right there in 73. So it's a lot. But yeah, so that's a quick rundown.
Let's jump into this. So you guys, so for the folks at home, a little background, Lance Castle, he got court-martialed twice. The first time he got court-martialed, they charged him with 7 specifications. It was all preceding the unlawful experimental jab mandates, in which he lawfully was communicating with his chain of command about the unlawfulness of them, and then obviously refusing to be experimented on by his chain of command. And so he did that lawfully, and then they came at him, found something against him, 7 charges. He went to the first court martial. He was found innocent on all 7 charges, specifications in the court martial, fully acquitted. They put him right back into the same chain of command with the same leadership. And guess what? Surprise, surprise. They come at him again. He fears for his safety. I mean, they're already trying to experiment on the dude, so he's not in this all volunteer force, right? He's not wanting to participate with this chain of command, which is completely understandable. So they refused to let him record the interactions that were happening on base, and backed him into a corner to where he couldn't possibly go on base, according to him, due to his safety. So they charged him with AWOL and a couple other things. But I want to hear from you guys, because you guys got the specifics. Obviously, it's in this video. You cover it in depth, but you all were at the second court martial. So I want to start with you, Tech Sergeant Lauderbaugh. What did you see at this court martial? Because from my point of view of getting court martialed, it was incredibly humbling to have people who came that I had no clue who they were, came and support me at my court martial. But it's incredibly important. A military court martial is a public hearing, and it's important for the fact that you were a witness to this due, quote unquote, due process of Lance Castle. So tell me about it.
First and foremost, Lance Castle was so happy to see us there. I mean, he was just, when we walked in, he had come in to the courtroom and everything, and he was just like bright-eyed, like he felt like you could see like new life in him, you know. So they went through the procedures and everything. John knows a lot more about the names and everything, but I'm just going to really speak about the there's no in the courtroom itself. It was, they didn't even know what they were doing. The part that where the government had come in at, they were taking timeouts. They were, you know, looking through documentation and taking pauses and things like that, and asking for recesses and stuff. They didn't have everything together in the beginning. It was Lance Castle's team that was, you know, forging through the first 2 days, and they seemingly, you know, pretty much had them on the ropes. And then day 3, everything changed, whether it'd be people who came in that Lance didn't even know that were in the courtroom other than us, and the tide turned right then and there. So you can definitely tell the difference, and the atmosphere changed dramatically within those 3 days. I think that we showed, you know, courageously, you know, great support for him. But the fact of the matter is that there's still corruption within the government. There's still corruption within the DOD. There's corruption in that courtroom. It was not a fair trial whatsoever. And I'm gonna pass over to John because he knows a lot more about it as far as the name specifications go.
Real quick before we go over to John, and I want to ask John this actually. Did they allow you? So you're one of the people, right? You're not a military service member at this point in time. You're going in your personal capacity to this court martial to witness this public hearing because they are public. Did they let you take any sort of pictures, videos, audio recordings, and for your podcast to get the information out to the people on what was going on in there?
No, absolutely not. No. So, you know, we went in to go into the court martial, and they had security guard out there, some MP, NCO, and he basically searched us. They wand us, excuse me, and we handed over everything. Even they had like iPhone watches they couldn't bring in. James Johnson had a pen. He couldn't bring his pen in. I mean, it was a big, thick pen, like probably 3 times bigger than this one, but he couldn't bring a pen in, no phones, nothing. So,
What
yeah,
was
that
there
was it.
anybody? Was there anybody else in the gallery along with you? And did they have electronic devices?
Oh yeah, no, it was just the individuals that came together. So there was a group of us. It was 5 of us, to include Scott, and we were the only ones that were getting searched and getting our things removed into this court martial. So regardless of who else showed up, we were the only ones that couldn't bring anything in.
How many other people were in the gallery?
Ooh,
I think there was about five
yeah,
of
about
us,
5.
and then
Yeah.
there was 5 of us, and then there was 5 others that were there. There were 2 paralegals that were on the DOD side, and then they allowed like other people that were working in the building to come in, I guess, just to witness it.
And there was no issue with, and they had electronic devices.
Yeah, some of their
Yeah.
phones would go off. They'd be texting. Yeah, and we were just like sitting there, like, really?
Wow.
But
So,
it came down to it's a court martial, and the judge makes the rules, and his rules were we couldn't have our stuff in there.
okay. Well, that's interesting. Well, anyway, regardless, you guys are fact evidence witnesses of what happened within that court martial, which is just as powerful as a recording device. You know, 2 witnesses, and you had 5 witnesses of the persecution of Lance Castle. So you stayed the entire time during the entire court martial. Were there any other issues getting into the court martial initially? And did you stay for the entire court martial?
Yeah, so we first, and Scott could talk on this as well, but we hit the coming on post. So we're all now, you know, civilians, but most of us had our VA cards, and So we tried to get, to the gate. We showed him our VA cards. We filled out the paperwork to do background checks to get on. And Derek was the first one up. He's not here right now, but he basically said, yeah, they asked, like, what are you coming on post for? Because as you know, like, now you can go on post, if you're disabled through with the VA, you can go on post and go to the commissary and use whatever they have. So he basically said, yeah, we're going to go to a court martial. And they said, oh, we can't go to a court martial. We can't let you on for that. And so I had gotten up and I walked over there and I was like, hey, like, I called, prior. And he's like, well, who'd you call? And so I gave him the phone number and they're like, oh, that's this building you're in right now, right? The center. And he's like, oh, okay. And then so I was like, you guys said it was good, everything was cool. And then, I think I talked to you prior, Mark, and it's a court martial, and we had found out it was open to the public. So if we can get on post.
Yeah, which they all are.
Yeah, exactly. And so we hit that little roadblock there, and then there was another individual in there, and he said, he was telling the lady that was helping us, he said, hey, like, these guys are all, disabled through the VA. Like, you can't stop them from coming on post, because she didn't want us to go on post. And so after he told her that, she's like, oh, okay. And then she went and made a bunch of phone calls. And so I think we were in there for a good 30 minutes, Scott, before we were actually allowed to move forward.
And then we basically got in the truck and we went through the gate. Now I have a retired military ID, but the thing is that because I fought, the situation at hand, the COVID vaccine, if that's what you want to call it, I call it a bioweapon. But as soon as I fought that and beat it, now they got like this yellow strike on the back of my card or something. So when they go to scan it, they like look at me, hey, did you do anything or anything? I'm like, no. But
wow.
we were still able to get on base. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. I mean, I go all over the place on every military installation, work and stuff like that. So, sometimes you get a look, sometimes you don't, but they still allow me on. So whatever, it's not a big deal. We still were able to push through and get on there. We prayed a lot beforehand, and I think, God kind of guided us through that situation, and every roadblock they threw at us, we were present and accounted for it.
So what was the verdict and the sentencing of this second court martial for Lance Castle? And for the audience out there, Lance Castle served total, I think we're close to 20 years at this point in time. So he did a lot of special operations pipelines in the Air Force. And if anybody's familiar with that, those special forces, but also special duty type assignments kind of limits your progression as far as the ranks go. And so he was a staff sergeant, and then they started coming after him, ended up taking a stripe. So at this point, he should have been tech sergeant, master sergeant level, but given all the shenanigans that gone on, senior airman, 19 years, 20 years at this point. So what was the verdict for him at 19 years active duty?
Yeah, he actually caught guilty on all accounts, and I believe there was 2 specifications of like disrespect, and I think one was a senior non-commissioned officer, and one was an officer, and those 2 got dropped, and so that was that. It was time served. If I remember correctly, it was 151 days pre-trial confinement. That's off the top of my head, so I don't know if that's accurate, but I think that's right. And so it was time served, got busted down to E1, and that's what that is.
Right, and for the audience,
I apologize. He has to get a bad conduct discharge. That's the last one.
And for the audience, prior to the first court martial, they put him in pre-trial confinement as well. He missed the birth of his first son, and then they put him in pre-trial confinement again for this most recent time. I think that started back in July of 2024, up until his court martial.
19 July, yeah.
Yeah, up until his court martial, what just happened in the beginning of March, or end of March, right? End of March, beginning of March?
Yeah, around the end. It was the court martial started on the 24th of March.
24th of March. So he was in pretrial and then missed the birth of his, or didn't miss the birth of his second son, because the judge can you talk about that? Can you talk about how that went down in the courtroom with the birth of his second son?
Yeah, it was on the 25th. It was day 2, 25th of March, 2025. And basically, the day was going, I guess, normal for a court martial. And then they decided that, I guess his wife had texted or whatever, said, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go into labor." And so I guess they asked the judge, like, "Hey, is it okay if he, I guess, watches it?" I'm not sure. It must have been like a virtual thing where they zoomed in or some way like that.
Oh, wow. So he wasn't able to actually physically go to the birth of his son.
No, not from my understanding. No. So he just went in the back room. So like behind like where the judge sits, there's another room. And he just went back there.
The judge's
there you go.
chambers.
The judge's chamber. And I believe he got to watch it virtually, from my understanding, anyways. And so that was that.
That's wild. And so now he's dealing with that appeal process. Hopefully we can get him on the show. Hopefully y'all can get him on the show, and we can hear more from Lance Castle. Like I said, folks, check out this saga right here, and then all the other great videos that y'all put together. Incredibly important evidence of senior commanders and commanders in general doing illegal acts, unlawful acts, retaliatory acts against service members and the people, basically.
That saga has all documentation, all the words coming from Lance Castle's mouth himself. And there's notes within there that I put in there that kind of helps you follow along exactly what happened and what was going down. And there's pictures of the individuals that were doing the things to him.
If there's one thing I can say about Lance Castle, it's like I think they messed with the wrong senior airman, because he spent a long time going through Special Forces pipeline to be what was it, TAC P, right? The TAC P Air Force or pararescue. Pararescue. Yep. And that's a long time. And he went through quite a few iterations of Special Forces training, got all the qualifications. So this is basically a challenge for him behind enemy lines when you have this foreign belligerence that we witnessed ourselves, and these service members aiding and abetting this foreign enemy, which is repugnant to the Constitution, which is repugnant to our laws. And the SecDef just came out and verified everything we've been screaming from the rooftops for the past 4 years. Unlawful, experimental, weaponized mandates against the force, but not only against the force, against humanity, against your police officers, against your teachers, against your corporate businessmen and women, against your children in schools forced to be masked up with these experimental weaponized products. So switching gears from Lance Castle, and like I said, folks, go check out that full saga of Lance Castle. But switching gears from that, what are you guys' thoughts on one, the SecDef's comments, right? And then 2, what are your thoughts on how this potentially plays out with the branches? Do you think they're going to get some sort of different magical orders that come down? Because the words I saw didn't really change on the memorandums.
No, I think it was kind of crazy too, because when he'd come out to begin with, the first memo was delayed in February a couple days, and then we were sent it, I guess, through the group. I think it was February 10th, right, John? So around there, it initially came out on February 6th or something like that, and we got like a couple days later. So we saw that, and then everybody that we deal with, we are in, I would say, a group with, basically picked through it and looked at the verbiage and the language they say, and basically peeled it apart and said this is garbage, and sent it back to him. And then a couple of months later, the past couple of days, he came out and stated it was unlawful, it was experimental. Why not come out with it from the get-go? You know what I mean? And they picked through that too. And there was a couple of documents actually the DOD sent for service members to come back, but we had to state that that we were coerced. We were coerced, but we against our own self. Like we got out on our own behalf, and not that we were coerced out of service. So
Right.
it's been wild. It was just a wild change of events, and we're still in it. You know, we're still battling through this, and we're getting the American public involved. That's the reason why we've all been doing this from the get-go. So
Yeah, talk about that real quick. Some of these elected officials you've been working with, you know, have you had any progress on both sides, John, Delarm, Scott? Any progress with those elected officials?
Yeah, so I know Scott will probably take this one, but for me, like I initially, in the beginning of me, on the process of getting kicked out of the military, I reached out. Ron Johnson had a whistleblower little link on his website, so I plugged that one in. I talked to one of the individuals that worked for him over the phone. I sent them all the documentation I had, in the hopes that something will happen. And nothing happened. And he's not my representative, but I also, I reached out to Ted Cruz. I reached out to Abbott. I reached out to, we sent stuff to Ken Paxton just to inform him of like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, so we did all these things. And like I said, I did these, I did some of it right before I was getting kicked out. And then, I knew it was going to happen. I got kicked out. I did a little bit more. And then I kind of realized now that none of these people care. There's they've known about this since the get-go. So I mean, there's nothing they're gonna do. They don't want to do anything. If they would have done something, there's so many whistleblowers out there. Mark, you're a whistleblower. Ted Mason's a whistleblower. I mean, I could probably name 10 more off the top of my head, but nothing has been done. The technology's still out there. They're still talking about COVID. They get your vaccine, and so we're still in this fight. And the representatives, they're not going to do anything. It just is what it is. Scott might have some better luck.
Yeah, now we have hundreds of service members getting booted out. Again, reminder: this is all volunteer force. So the fact that you're mandated to take any medical products against your conscience is baffling to me. But this whole flu debacle where now hundreds of service members are being kicked out or potentially on the verge of being kicked out. I know many behind the scenes that we're in comms with that are being kicked out because of their conscience against the flu jabs, which is rightfully so. When what happened to the flu during the COVID years, right? And when are we going to get to the point in the military where you can't just say military readiness? There's got to be actual science to back up what you're saying. Like this entire time when I was in the military, when you're both in the military, it's like, hey, but prior to contingency deployment, you got to get X, Y, and Z. Well, why? And they say, oh, well, malaria. Well, it's like, okay, well, can you show me the scientific proof that service members X, Y, and Z, whatever the case? Malaria is probably a bad example, but flu is a perfect example. You got to get your flu shot, and if you're red on your med pros or red on your IMR or whatever it is, you can't deploy. It's like, really, every time I've gotten the flu jab, I've gotten way sicker than if I haven't had it. And then on top of that, are we going to justify the fact that there's no scientific justification for it? But they don't need any, because they just say military readiness and then destroy you in the process.
the crazy part for me, go ahead, John.
I was gonna say, because I'm actually doing a detox right now, and it's just something that the military doesn't really look into. So I'm doing a parasite detox, just for my health. Like, I just want to whatever. Like, you don't know, you do know. Like, maybe not, but that's something that is known for a long time. The military doesn't do that, right? They don't do parasite cleanses. They don't try and do anything else for health unless there's some money to be made.
Right. You're absolutely right. This system toxifies. It doesn't detoxify. It toxifies. And if anything, if you want to talk about real healthcare service members or the public in general, we need to set up some serious detox sites for SSRIs for these psychotropics, because a lot of service members are on these psychotropics, and we need to set up some detox sites for that, because these psychotropics are flat out killing these service members, these veterans, and the general public. And nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about.
Yeah, and those are super addicting, and you can't just quit them. You have to wean off them, or you have other, issues, suicidal ideologies. You can't just stop them. So yeah.
Yeah, you got suicidal ideations on them, and you got suicidal ideations when you try to come off them. And if you don't have a support system in the process of coming off of them, then there's some serious risks involved with that as well. Just as much as if these doctors, like in my twin brother situation, where they're indiscriminately throwing pills at him, sending him on his way, and he starts ingesting them, and then next thing I know, he's gone. He's gone. And this is the story that's being told over and over again. So going back to what you say, we need detoxification protocols for these veterans, for these service members, and support systems to help them get detoxified. But that's not beneficial. Why? Because that doesn't make any money. That hurts the system in which we live in currently.
And it's a shame, because we have a lot of people that are with the Forgotten Soldiers or reprimandos or what have you that are in the 231 as well, that are vaccine injured, and they feel helpless and all these things. And that's what we're here for, support them and let them know that we're here for them, never to give up. And we just stand alongside them. If they need us, we're there. You know what I mean? A shoulder to be, be heard. And it's, your oath has meaning. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with, and the creeds that we have within each branch of the military, that carries on after service. You know what I mean? You have to look after each other. The same thing that we've been going through. And that's what the Forgotten Soldiers is all about. It's what Freedom 1776 is all about. 230 Run, the Reprimandos, all those things that God brought us together in this entity to be there for each other, Just to go back real quick about the congressional side of things, I was knee deep in a lot of, in a bad way on my end of things as I was fighting it, going through the COVID-19 situation. But in Pennsylvania, there are state reps that have helped me out tremendously. I started with Josh Kale, who's my state rep in District 15. So I basically started at the very bottom of the chain and worked my way up. Senator Mastriano was a big help for me. I mean, he had sent me the medical symposium that they did with all the links and everything. And I can definitely send you that document, Mark, if you want to put it up there. But it basically entailed all of the doctors that they knew about this. This was in 2022. Okay. This is in the spring of 2022, April to be exact. So they were sending me documentation. So I was able to go ahead and continue to fight, say, hey, here's these documents too. Here's all the whole symposium. And then there's Congressman Reschenthaler, his office. So I met with Nate Nivella, District Chief of Staff, had a couple of meetings with him, met with Congressman Reschenthaler face-to-face at the Trump rally back in November, this past November, spoke with him. And then I've been in contact with Samantha Quinn in Latrobe, in his Latrobe office. I basically had a meeting with her today and submitting my documentation in order to get back pay and my points and just basically get everything corrected on my end. It's been a long struggle. I'm not saying that it's, going to happen overnight. This is going to be a long process, and I know it. Everybody knows it, but we're all in the battle and we're not giving up. And the more that we continue to fight and bring the awareness to the American public, we need them on board with us as well, because they were hit with the same thing we were. You know what I mean? And we've all been out there helping out the best we can. So,
yeah, the biggest thing I want to harp on is accountability. I mean, we have service members right now in uniform, known criminals, walking around in uniform, still getting promoted, still climbing that careerism ladder, playing the career game and not the service member game, right? I need to see some accountability, and if anybody's listening in the positions that they may find themselves in this administration, the best way you could possibly do accountability and figure out who's who is go to your board of military corrections find the COVID packages and look at the names who signed off on the retaliation against protected communicators, right? Look for the Gomars. Who signed the Gomar? He was aware. He was aware, wasn't he, John Delarm? Let's talk about that for a second. So you submitted Article 138, which is protected communications, to your chain of command, highlighting the illegalities, the unlawfulness, and the substantial specific dangers to public health and safety to your chain of command. And what happened? And who was his name? Who was the name of this general? I want to know the name.
Sean C. Burnaby.
Sean C. Burnaby,
Mm-hmm.
criminal, in uniform, known violator of federal law.
Fort Bliss, Texas.
Fort Bliss, Texas.
Yeah, so I submitted my Article 138 and pushed it through the chain of command like I was supposed to. And then y'all bring up Lance too, because this is interesting fact. So I did my 138 and I did exactly by the book, like how you're supposed to do it, right? The lowest, officer within your chain of command, it goes up to, the highest, right?
First commander within your chain of command, yeah.
Right. And so I did that. And what happened to me was, this is what I believe, right? I believe everybody seen it. Everybody knew what was going on. And what they decided to do is hide it and act like they never seen it, never got it. They ignored me. I went to IG. IG had to try and figure it out. And they kicked the can down the road until they got rid of me. And once they got rid of me, they didn't have to do it. They just done. And so my failure, it's the system failure. It's not my failure. It's the system failed me. Right? These are put in place to protect soldiers, and the system failed me. Maybe the individuals running the system, we could say that.
Individuals running the system absolutely failed you. Yep.
With Lance Castle's situation, right? For some reason, he knew. He sent that Article 138 to the entire post. And if I remember correctly, it was over 100,000 people that received his email. And so go ahead and try and cover that up and hide that. You're not going to do that.
He actually sent it to the entire MAGCOM of the SOCOM. He sent it to entire Air Force SOCOM MAGCOM who got that email. And no, you're absolutely right. They want to put their. I've literally had my company commander putting his thumbs in his ears after I was like, "You haven't looked at after he dubbed me an insider threat after submitting DMED data to a federal court. I was like, "You're really going to sign off on that?" It was a counseling statement calling me an insider threat after submitting DMED data, which is the Defense Medical Epidemiological Database, and the immense signals in there, and the VAERS data, which is the VAERS is the Department of Defense's own database for adverse reactions of service members. So if you were a service member out there communicating VAERS data and the specific danger signals to public health and safety, you are a protected communicator. Anything that happened to you after that fact was illegal, unlawful, and retaliatory. I didn't make the laws, we just follow them. So craziness.
Well, we're all insider threats because we all have the receipts against them. We all have the evidence. So classified it, hence we are reprimandos.
We're reprimandos. We're insider threats against their diabolical agenda. They were aiding and abetting a foreign enemy. I mean, anybody who thinks that's a long shot, it's not. They're foreign enemy, foreign to the Constitution, foreign to the laws. And then we saw that they were aiding and abetting that. Why? There were laws that protected against experimenting on service members. There were laws that protected service members when they submit protected communication. I tell everybody, and I want to ask you, John, but I will tell everybody, encourage everybody to submit your Department of Defense Form 149 to your respected branch of your military corrections branch, right? Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force. Submit it and put your evidence on that record. That is a record, because I'm going to encourage the leadership, those leaders that maybe want to do the right thing. The best thing you could do for accountability is go to your Board of Military Corrections, pull the packages, look at the COVID ones, and those are your criminals that still walk around in uniform today.
I also want to say, So because Lance Castle sent that out that way, it made a lot of issues like with higher ups, right? Because everybody's seen it. Like, so to solve that situation, right? This is what happened. Colonel Bergen, which is the wing commander, he put an investigation into Colonel Vasquez. And Colonel Vasquez was Lance's commander. Okay. So initially, this is the chain of command during like Lance's first court martial, right? It was, I got it written down, so I'm looking at my notes here. I don't want to mess it up this time. So the MSG commander was Colonel Roach. Okay. Colonel Vasquez was his commander. Okay. So what happened was, right, Colonel Churchill comes in, takes over Colonel Roach's position. Right. So now Colonel Churchill is the MSG commander. So Colonel Bergen did an investigation into Colonel Vasquez to make sure that everything's going good and there's no issues, right? Which we know there was. The investigating officer was the prior MSG commander, Colonel Roach, that investigated into Colonel Vasquez. And guess what was founded? Nothing. That came out in the court martial, but that's how they were trying to cover it up, right?
You know how many like rugs? You know how many rug sweeps there have been for you, me, John, Lance, everybody? These people just swept everything under the rug and just kept moving on like as if nothing happened.
Well, they got promoted. They got promoted. I want to bring this up for the audience again because it's just, it's ridiculous. I don't know if I'll find it. Oh man. I might not find it, but they get promoted. Like for example, the staff judge advocate, Yevgeny Vinman. Where is he now? Not only did he get promoted to colonel in the Biden administration, moved to be a staff judge advocate, he retired after convicting me in a court martial, now sits as the Virginia District 7 House of Representative on the Armed Services Committee after this dude bragged to the world about persecuting me in the first ever court martial. Can't make this stuff up, folks. Can't make this stuff up. Right here. I don't know if you can see this.
He persecuted you and then bragged about it.
Check this out. Right here.
Got promoted.
Proud of the prosecution team in Aberdeen Proving Ground. Secured the first in the nation conviction at court martial of a lieutenant who failed to obey unlawful orders. Unlawful. Not lawful, it was unlawful orders regarding COVID-19 mitigation measures. And now where does he sit? On the Armed Forces Committee.
Hey, go back to that date real quick. I want to point something out real fast. So 4/29/22, right? It says obey lawful orders, right? Even though, look at what happened just a couple of weeks ago from SecDef. Unlawful. Oh, you know what I mean? Just like what you were saying. Look at that. 2 years later, 3 years later.
3 years later. Unlawful. Illegal. Immoral.
Because it was unlawful the whole damn time.
It was unlawful. It wasn't even close, my friends. And you know this. I know this. We, the people, know this. It wasn't even close. It was pretty damn obvious from the very beginning. Some people needed a little help getting there early on and saw it right away after a little nudge. And other people just knowingly committed crimes. And those are many public servants who still serve today, who still walk in uniform.
Yeah, it's wild because everybody that I knew, first sergeants, like 3 or 4 different first sergeants, 3 or 4 different commanders at the company level or battery level, the battalion commander I spoke to, the command sergeant major at the battalion level, the brigade commander I sent protected communications through, the division commander, the post commander, like other platoon sergeants, like 4 or 5 other platoon sergeants, random NCOs I just talked to, like, and my thing, like, I didn't just tell them, hey, this is illegal, they're violating this is what's going on. Like, I would show them the documentation. here's the documentation. Like there is no like, because if you go to the CDC website, it was the IIS, the Information Immunization System, and that system would say that there is no approved vaccine in the United States. Boom. I just print that document out, show people, and the date's on there on the screenshot. And it's like they just don't understand what that means. Like there's no approved vaccine. Like you're violating US Code 1107 Alpha. Period. You're violating Army regulation. And every one of those individuals chose to ignore that law and go ahead and violate it, and
violate it, and then get awarded for it. Here we have a lieutenant colonel getting a meritorious service medal, and the highlighted part says, finally, she led the squadron through an unprecedented global pandemic, right? Implementing the Department of Defense coronavirus vaccine mandate, counseling 80 vaccine hesitant airmen to achieve a 99% vaccination rate. So let's say it for what it is. Let's say it for what it is. Finally, she led the squadron through a highly illegal, unlawful act of war against the United States of America, and she aided and abetted the enemy by implementing an unlawful experimental mandate where she counseled 80 experimental hesitant airmen to achieve a 99% experimental rate. That's really what went on, folks. That's really what happened here. And guess what? She's not the only one. She's not the only one. Many service members still in uniform today, getting promoted, climbing, putting higher areas of responsibility, and gonna get service members killed, more service members killed because of it.
I can only imagine how they feel and what they think at this point in time. Like by now, like everybody in the military should know the shit was illegal, unlawful, illegal. So the only thing they can say now is I was following orders. Like how is your conscience? Like how does that go for you? Like,
well,
how do you sleep at night?
We know how it goes. We know how it goes for them. They're not actually recognizing at all. They're continuing to trudge down that road, and they're actually being subversive to the current administration, the lawful, duly elected administration. They're now being subversive, undermining. You saw that commander over in Greenland. What happened to her? Removed from command because she was undermining the vice president of the United States. She was the wing
she
commander.
Didn't put the picture up?
Huh?
No,
that wasn't the,
that was the
no, that was different. That's some pretty different story. This wing commander, Greenland, I forget the name of the base. I think it's Tool. I think Greenland's Tool Air Force Base, I believe. I could be wrong. Anyway, she was the wing commander. She was undermining the vice president of the United States on his trip to Greenland. Removed from command. And then you have the one you're talking about where they can't seem to hang up the lawfully duly elected president. Why do I say lawfully duly elected? I'm hinting at the fact that the previous one wasn't lawful and he wasn't duly elected. Why? Because there was an act of war on the election system. The election system is national security infrastructure. It was attacked by foreign entities. And guess what? That's an act of war. And they were installed. And it was blatantly obvious that they were belligerent. Why? Because they couldn't follow basic experimental laws. It's just
the crazy thing. The crazy thing in all of this is that people need to go back to the learning tree and find out like what if you can't see it, and you're going to go and fight up against it and say, oh no, this didn't happen. You need to go back and look at the laws and regulations that are within the Constitution, man, because I just feel bad that these people have to go through this and have the greatest wake-up call, known to humankind. You know what I mean? That they were attacked, that there was a fraudulent election, and on and on and on and on. And it's just the evidence is right there in your face.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. I do not know where we go. But I'm going to put your banner down there on the bottom. Scroll it, save it. There you go, people. Check out their website, Forgotten Soldiers, Rumble channel. Check out their videos, amazing videos. If you're a public servant and you're on the good side, on the inside, trying to do the right thing, you've got an abundance of evidence over at this platform that you can dig into and start holding these senior level officials accountable. And then shit rolls downhill, right, boys?
That's right.
Shit rolls downhill. We tried to warn you, but here we are. Anyway, we're going to cut this off. Final words, Sergeant Lauderbaugh.
Right. Well, I usually say this a lot, but the reason why I continue to fight alongside my military brothers and sisters is because of this. The way that I was brought up through my family, my father was a Vietnam veteran, but also whenever I go to do Reach Across America, or if you look across the vastness of each veteran cemetery across the country, Arlington included, these people that fought for our country never laid down. What I mean by that is that they stood and fought for our rights through the Constitution and Bill of Rights, all that we hold dear to ourselves and through our families. And the reprimandos and the people that have stood up and fought against this, crimes and corruptions within the government, are not laying down either. And the American public needs to have a real coming to Jesus moment, and stand alongside us and come to the grips that we were attacked and stand up. And once we knock this bully on its ass, we're going to just push this door wide open and just keep going. And we're going to win. We're going to win today. So
Amen.
that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Amen. Appreciate you coming on, John Delarm. Final words.
All right. Yeah, I just want to say that this has been a long fight, and it's definitely not over, but it would go, a lot quicker if other individuals would get involved, right? So in order to win this fight and get it going, we need the conscience of the people to get involved. So everybody needs to understand what's going on. Everybody needs to get involved and do something. And when I say do something, it's something as little as sharing a video, right? I'm not making no money off this. All my stuff's for free. I just want to wake people up and have them understand what happened, 4 years ago, and it's still happening today. And it's only going to get worse. It's going to get worse. They're attacking your children. It's going to get worse. They're having babies freaking get mRNA technology put into them. It's disgusting. It's ridiculous. At the very minimum, all you have to do is get the information and pass it along, and maybe talk to somebody that is confused and don't know what's going on, and try and wake them up a little bit. The more people that know what's going on, we can get this over with tomorrow. And I just want to thank you for having me on here. And it's always a pleasure of mine. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you both. God bless. Thanks for coming on the show. Folks, check them out. Like I said, the Forgotten Soldiers Rumble channel, incredible information. Also, check out freedomfighter1776.com, where you can find other Patriot resources. We got the Forgotten Soldiers over there. We got Doc Pete Chambers, what he's doing over there. We got Sam Sigeloff's channel, the After Hours with Dr. Sam Sigeloff. We got all sorts of resources over there, so go check it out. Anyway, God bless. Much love. We'll catch you on the next episode.